Welcome to BPM's IPO Readiness Roadmap, a series of conversations with our leaders who have been there and done that when it comes to leading companies through IPO or the best possible exit. I'm John Weems, Head of Business Development at BPM, a top 50 US consulting and accounting firm, and excited to be here with you today where we're focused on the people side of readiness. Our expert today is Jill Pappenheimer. She is a partner and leads our HR and technology consulting practice. And today we'll be talking about culture, compliance, compensation, and the systems that help all of those flow together well. But before we get to the specifics, I want you to get a little bit of a chance to know Jill. So Jill, I know one of your passions is sailing. So for starters, please tell us what does it mean to be rail meet and what relevance might that have for our entrepreneurs listening today?
Yeah, rail meet. It's a phenomenon where you are sitting on the edge of the sailboat trying to add the weight to the right side to have the boat go faster, because it's all about as fast as you can go. And if I would tie that back to what we're talking about, it's frequently the need for speed, but I would argue that so many entities are not stopping and thinking about the people function to the level that they should, which will save them time and suffering down the road.
One thing you've told me is that it's rarely too late. I don't know if we'd say never, but it's rarely too late. Some on the very proactive side who have been through several ventures, others more reactive who are kind of figuring it out as they go. Can you speak a little bit about where does a person listening today start so that they can be ready and have that balance?
It's never too soon to start. Putting in the right systems and structure for your organization and thinking about growth from day one is the most ideal. So whatever stage you are, whether you're Series A, Series B, or farther down the road, it's never too late to shift your thinking and being proactive.
Entrepreneurs don't often think of compliance as sexy. We know that they're investors and the market often does. Let's speak a little bit about the compliance side. What do people need to be thinking of, aware of? What actions can they take?
I would start with an audit. We call it an assessment because it goes beyond compliance, but if you're really just looking at the compliance piece, it's an audit. And you're looking at local, state, and federal compliance, which can tie into payroll, how you're paying people, are people classified appropriately? Leaves are critically important. Dig into compliance to ensure that you're not going to have red flags down the road. So I would spend the time with an HR consultant or your internal staff to go through a checklist and make sure you're buttoned up. And if you're not, to spend the time to getting buttoned up.
So let's bridge a little bit from compliance and culture. We hear a lot more about culture and CEOs and others who are doing really interesting things on that front. How do those interrelate? And again, what does the founder and their executive team need to be thinking of in terms of culture and compliance?
As conversation leaks, as it will, you want to be having developed a culture that is cohesive, that can come together at time of big change and big growth. And to build that culture, to support the transitions and to make sure you have the right skills and talent on board, you really want to attract the right talent and be able to retain them and have them collaborate as a cohesive team across your organization. And so a key piece to that is values and identifying who you are as an organization so you can clearly define that and be recognized for who you are and attract people because of who you are. I would look to incorporate values into your organization through HR systems, which you can do through performance systems. And that's a key way to make sure people are talking to each other and collaborating through your performance tool. It all plays back in so many different ways to make sure that people are working collaboratively and understand what responsibilities everyone has and outcomes that they're held accountable to.
So let's talk compensation a little bit, and then we want to maybe have you share a snapshot of an example where things have just worked very well together for a client with whom you've worked. Let's talk about comp for a minute. You mentioned equity and other pieces. We know that while many of our clients are very altruistic, many of them would like to see some strong compensation come from these paths. So what should they be aware of, and what will be helpful?
Being proactive, as with all of these topics, is going to help you in minimizing the complexities once you get there. And so I would suggest making sure that you've got a strong compensation philosophy going into an IPO readiness stage, that you've got a structure in place that you are clearly defining and sticking to, and that people know what to expect around compensation.
Tell us about a situation where this has all come together well. And again, we protect the confidentiality of our clients, but if you can share some of the snippets and things from which our audience can learn today.
We have a client that is in the ag space, got a very strong chief people officer who is really looking to be getting proactive from day one. So we're helping this organization look at every aspect, from the compensation structure, the board being in tune with that and what that looks like as they prepare for this next stage. We're putting in a performance tool that actually we own at BPM, which is called BPM Link. And this is a way to connect people to the work that they're doing and to each other. So employees and managers having conversations that hold them accountable to the work that they're doing, whether they're involved in the IPO readiness or not, really identifying those projects and making them visible and transparent to the organization. And then making sure everybody can see a dashboard of the work that's being done, so it's tied to those objectives. So putting a structure in place to help the company execute on what the objectives are. So it's one thing to identify who's going to work on what, it's another to hold them accountable. So that's something we're doing with that organization. And then we're working with another organization in the educational space that is starting way down the road to prepare for this readiness. And they're backpedaling, honestly, and they're financially fixing things that they didn't put in place when they recognized they should have. And so we're spending a lot of time cleaning up rather than setting up the systems and the processes and the practices that they should to get ready. It's two extremes for sure. And sometimes organizations don't make that decision until it's quite a ways down the road.
So Jill, as we come to a close, would you mind commenting a little on trends you're seeing in the marketplace? I know we're consistently hearing about headquarter potential moves. Certainly this was interwoven through your other comments, but remote workforce. Anything else you're seeing out there that might benefit our listeners?
Hot conversation right now is the remote workforce and employees that are moving to other states, not telling their employers because they obviously don't think it's an issue, but it is. So employers need to be aware that when people relocate, short-term or long-term, there may be consequences for one, registering in that state that they're in. There may be payroll tax consequences. You may have to file workers' comp again in that state. Benefits may be affected. So, and then compensation, right? Do you want to adjust compensation based on having people in multi-state scenarios? And then just remote work management is another hot topic that we're supporting our clients. Important to think about how you're handling from a policy standpoint, people working in various locations.
Well, Jill, thank you very much for your time today. Are you open to having a conversation with your CEO or their team who are going through the assessment, trying to figure some of these things out?
Absolutely. Absolutely. Okay. We're here to help.
Excellent. Well, thank you very much, Jill. Thank you so much again for joining us. We invite our listeners to connect with BPM via LinkedIn, and please do subscribe to our YouTube channel. Stay tuned for upcoming episodes where we'll focus on other issues, including valuation, assurance, technical accounting, things that you all need to know through this chain. BPM is happy to help, and we look forward to connecting with you next time.